We've all spent hundreds, maybe even thousands, making our flight simulator look better. But almost nobody spends any time improving the thing we're actually flying through: the air. Every takeoff, every landing, every bit of turbulence, and every cloud, it all happens in the air. So if the sky isn't convincing, is the rest of the sim really that realistic? That's exactly what I wanted to find out. This is what most people are still flying through. And this is what it looks like when you actually fix the air. Not the plane, not the airport, it's the sky. The one thing you're staring at the entire flight. So let's fix that. Your air is two jobs. Job one is the brain, and that's what the weather engine is. It decides where the weather is and what it is. Wind pressure, temperature, where the clouds sit, and how hard the air hits you on final. Job two is the addons, and this is the atmospheric visuals. It decides what the weather looks like. Cloud shape, sky color, haze, that golden hour light that makes you stop and stare. You with me so far? Good, because this is where most people mess it up. People think the default weather engine in 2024 is good enough. And from the gate, it looks okay. The clouds are there, there's some turbulence, even some wake turbulence. But it falls short very quickly because there's virtually no atmosphere in Flight Sim. And a lot of the time, the weather engine is just wrong. Like, for example, this is default weather set to live. And then this is active sky, also set to live. And then this is strata, set to live. Compare that to the actual live webcam at the airport. I think you can see which one's closer. In my opinion, you need both of these to fix it. One without the other is just a half fix. A lot of people use Rex Atmos but don't have a weather engine. Now, default 2024 is better than it ever has been. I'm not going to pretend it's useless, but better than before is not the same as this feels real when I'm hand flying. So let's talk about active sky real quick. This has been a big name for years, and still for a lot of people it is. This is a very mature and old weather engine that has existed since FSX, and it has everything you need. It's got live weather, historical, and the ability to make your own. But it does have a couple of drawbacks. It's also very old. It's the same software that's been around since FSX, which means the UI still feels outdated. Then you've got Strata WX, which is a new contender, and it grabs the live weather data and feeds it into Flight Sim. It's smooth, it's more modern, but it also has its own drawbacks. It doesn't have wake turbulence, and it's only brand new. It hasn't had the 10 years to mature. Strata looks phenomenal. It's a lot easier to understand it because it's all visual. You're not looking at a wall of options. There's very minimal text, and it just plain and simply works. And then there's Active Sky, which has a lot more features, but it's also harder to understand. It's not very user-friendly, and there is literally walls and walls of options. But once you do have it set up, it just works. The important thing is you need to choose one. Both have their own limitations and flaws, but they both fix one massive issue, which is the default weather engine. And before we get to the most important add-on, one quick question. What add-ons are you using? Because I'd love to know what your setup is. So go write it down in the comments. And while you're down there, you may as well hit like and get subscribed. Alright, now the most important add-on. Let's talk visuals. This is the one that will completely change your flight sim visually. And that's Rex Atmos Core. You can have perfect data feeding in and still get clouds that look ashy, grainy, or just wrong in certain lighting. It's something we all struggle with, but here's why this is so important. It doesn't just create an atmosphere, but it blends between those harsh clouds into a haze before the terrain, which means you can't see 500 miles in front of you to where the scenery looks all melted. But now you actually have depth. Not only that, but lighting is actually correct now. Golden hours actually look golden, and sunrises are beautiful. It actually makes the sim look unreal. Alright, we've got the brain fixing the weather, and then the artist is fixing the look. There's still one gap most people leave wide open. How you actually feel the air. The default camera system in Flight Sim is just straight up horrible. There's no physics behind it and it's just unintuitive to use. It's always a pain. You built this beautiful sky with all this real structure and amazing lighting, then you watch it through a camera that feels like it's bolted to the chair. Well, that's where chase plane comes in. This isn't just about prettier external views. This adds real physics to your camera system, meaning every bump, every bit of turbulence or hard landing, you feel. And trust me, this is one of these add-ons that are just a non-negotiable. But now you've taken your flight sim to a completely different level. Not only does it look realistic, but now it feels and behaves incredibly realistic too. Which it might take some getting used to, because you're used to flying in the default weather engine. Now you've got a lot more fighting against you, so it changes the way you fly. The main thing is, you don't need to spend $10,000 on a cockpit. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars on add-ons. All you need to do is look at where you spend most of the time, which is the sky. Fix the sky and you're fixing half of your problems. And you'll finally get to that immersion level that we're all chasing. But I want to know what you think. Let me know what you thought of this video because it's kind of a bit different. If you want to know how you can get your flight sim to the next level, then we can do more videos on that. But as always, make sure to hit like, get subscribed, and I can't thank you all enough for watching. But as always, until next time, I'll catch you then.